Hi, in today's podcast, we're going to talk about AI is now being used to fire people? Are you kidding me? Don, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, Dennis, how are you?
Doing well. I'm a little worried about this AI going rogue on us. Don and I have known each other since elementary school, and we've started up this podcast late in life to talk about AI and its impacts on all of us. And today we're going to talk about this recent lawsuit where 26 former employees of Meta, which is the parent company for Facebook, have sued the company. And they say that AI was used to fire them. And they don't like it. And they've got a judge that's agreed to accept the suit. And I've got a lot of questions in my mind about where all this is going. What are you thinking, Don? Is this a legitimate lawsuit?
When I first heard about it, I thought, well, this is kind of ridiculous because, it's, at your average company, if you're not a protected class, of employee, it's fairly easy to, get rid of, to fire an employee. But in this case, what made it most interesting was that what the employees claimed was that they had voluntarily given information or the company used information that they didn't realize was going to be used to fire them. And in some cases, they thought was also incorrectly interpreted by the algorithm. Okay, so a couple of them mentioned the fact that, they had taken family medical leave, or perhaps they'd had a long vacation or something like that. And the algorithm was using, something akin to hours worked to be able to determine, hey, if the company can get along without this person, then let's get along without the person. And that they think that that was incorrect, and they were not made aware of this algorithm, and so therefore they couldn't make decisions to protect their career. And I do believe that there's something to that. And what I don't know is how can what direction can we go from there? I mean, how can companies adjust for that? I mean, algorithms can be changed. In this case, of course, the lawsuit's going to go forward, and we'll find out what the courts believe is correct. Whether they think that the firings were permissible or not. But I do think it's a valid claim.
So you said the companies can adjust. What about the employees?
Yeah, certainly.
Don't you think? Well, don't you think they're gonna figure out what the algorithms are looking at, and then maybe they'll game the algorithms?
Well, I guess you could game the algorithm for sure, but that's a little harder to do. You can't go on family medical. You can't pretend not to go on family medical leave. Or at least that's pretty hard to do. You can't pretend you're not on vacation when you are. So, those sorts of things are difficult. But there are ways certainly to game aspects of the algorithm, which in some ways makes it understandable why the corporation wouldn't just be publishing the algorithm they're using, right? Because they don't want it to be gamed. They want to the best of their knowledge, create, an algorithm that reflects their priorities and is working off data that was honestly contributed and gathered. And I get that. And I have some sympathy for the corporation in that regard. But I also have sympathy for employees who are having their data gathered without their knowledge and used in ways that it was not to be used. So what I mean is, and just let me continue for just a moment, and that's that what I really hate, honestly, or what I used to hate in my corporate career was when companies gave you benefits, but expected you not to use them. And, I always thought that was basically, it's akin to a company lying during the interview, claiming to be a company that they're not. And then you come in there and you realize, oh my gosh, I've made a horrible mistake. Now, yes, you can quit and move on, but obviously that's hard. Lots of frictional costs associated with that. But so that's my point, is just that, these were employee benefits. These employees use the employee benefit, and employee benefits have value to the company because they attract higher value employees. So you shouldn't turn around and complain when those high value employees, which maybe you wouldn't have had without that benefit, use it. And in this case, when they used it, they were interpreted, I suppose, as slackers.
Yeah, I don't
They
know if
didn't.
it was. I don't know. That's a pretty harsh term there, Don. I think they had an agenda. They wanted to get rid of people, and AI's capabilities are, and I used to be a doubter. I used to, what AI, what is this? It's nothing Google couldn't do before, but I've come around after using it every
Mhm.
day for the last 2 years. And so it's giving management this ability, and it's almost like the manager has this little remember the old video, you'd have like the devil on one side and an angel on the other. It has the ability to speak over your
Yep.
shoulder with all this information, and it's I it the algorithm may have picked the absolute best people to be let go. May have. I'm not saying it did. But
Certainly
what AI
possibility.
is now doing is it's taking all sorts of information that a manager in the past wouldn't have been able to access and get through in a timely manner to make these decisions. But now, I don't want to say they have perfect information, but they have so much more information that is available, with just a prompt.
Right.
Rank from 1 to 100 who used the most leave in the past year, and it'll tell you. It'll just scrape the data and tell you all that. So
That's right.
I I don't. It's hard for me to criticize managers who have all this information available to them to be able to make decisions. And that's where everything is trending, is we're just have, everybody is having more and more information that they're an actionable information, not just slop. And so I don't know. I see both sides, but I also see this AI is becoming so powerful. And so what does this lawsuit mean? Does this mean now you can't use AI? Of course not. You can't tell somebody you can't use information to hire and fire. So I don't know. It's
Well,
what does a judge or a jury say, and where then do we say, well, I don't like AI in the first place. So if AI did it, then I'm gonna blame the AI. And this is a person, and it's a person against
yeah.
AI. I'm gonna take the person's side every time.
Well, if it's a jury trial, then that'll be a big concern for the defense in this case. Is are people just going to side with people? But I have a lot of sympathy for the fact that, or maybe empathy, um, for the management that's trying to do something. I'm gonna, cynical though I am. I am gonna believe that this management was hoping that their layoffs would be done in a more objective manner,
Mm.
and so therefore there would be less lawsuits, um, and less upset from those who were laid off. Uh, because laying off, as I'm sure you've had the same experience that I have, laying off or firing is not a lot of fun. It's not something you enjoy doing, and that's regardless of whether you think there could be a lawsuit coming or not. It's just not
Mm-hmm.
fun. So what you'd like to be able to do is really explain to the employee exactly why they were let go. Okay. Your employee, of course, though, to look at the other side, is going to come back and go, well, you didn't tell me that wasn't behavior you didn't want, right? You didn't tell me my vacation was going to be used to fire me. I I I could have decided not to take the vacation if I'd known that. And by the way, did you tell any other people it was being used to fire people and tell them it wasn't a good idea for them to take vacation? So you see where I'm heading. A lot of this lawsuit is going to be, if the people were treated fairly and objectively, let's just note the people in the lawsuit. That will include, were other employees as clueless about this algorithm as they were? Okay. And if they weren't, then this wasn't objectively done, right? You see what I'm saying? I mean, you come up with this
Yeah.
algorithm, you're getting ready to run it. Your employee walks in, an employee that you like, and they go, I'm getting ready, I've got this opportunity of a lifetime. I'm a climb Everest. And you go, probably not a good time to do that. You're going to be gone for like a month, right? They're like, yeah. He goes, why not? Well, I can't really say, but maybe you shouldn't do that, right? See, that's problematic. Um,
Yeah, but
and
Don, I think the thing is, a human could have gone over that information without
certainly
using
could have.
AI at all and come to this and said, "Wow, we've got people that are gone half a year on sick or whatever." And so, what the reason that they were let go could have been either because AI helped or AI didn't help. Um, but the thing is, they're saying the AI did this because I don't know.
They're
It's
saying
are we using this AI as a scapegoat and because you didn't like the way something happened? Is this now a legal strategy versus searching for justice?
you really hit on one of the things I think is the most interesting thing about it, because you're right. If AI didn't do it, a person could have done it. Well, then these 26 employees could have gone after the people involved. In this case, since it was AI, they have to go after the corporation. So the corporation, which was
Hmm.
probably looking to reduce their liability by using something that was objective, have actually perhaps dragged themselves into this lawsuit because this can no longer be held against people making the decisions. It has to be held against the corporation in total. At least that's my view. So it's an interesting aspect of the whole discussion is, and
Yeah.
maybe that means that firms won't want to use AI anymore because obviously
Yeah.
corporations don't like being liable.
Yeah, and if they win the lawsuit and AI is cited as part of the reason or even the main reason they win, then there's precedent there. And the
Yes.
legal system now is involved with determining AI's use. And this is just one.
This,
I imagine there'll be
we,
more. Have you seen any other
there are
examples
more.
where what a
Well, there
when
most
we're
certainly
talking about firing when you're talking about firing people?
Oh, yeah, there are plenty of examples of this, and one of the more interesting ones is in, one of my favorite places, and that would be China.
Ah,
So interestingly enough, yeah, and they of course have a way of doing things differently there. And it's interesting, some employees in China have brought a lawsuit against their employer for the same thing, essentially the fact that they were fired. Um, but the interesting thing in China is that laws in China are written such that employment between a corporation and a person are seen as a legal contract. And so what the employees are claiming is that their legal contract was broken by AI, and that AI is not a party to the contract. The contract was between the corporation and the people, and so therefore they couldn't be fired. So this is an interesting bend on the situation. So, and and you can imagine how it could influence the U.S. as well, because so now if you're in a union, right, then you're protected against AI, which I guess I'd never thought about before, but that seems kind of obvious. Yeah, you are. You're on a contract with the corporation, and so therefore AI is not going to be, involved in your employment, in large part. But in other parts of the workforce where there's not this sort of contract, you're going to have this concern.
well, let me
So
ask you this, Don. Are you? Can I jump in here? Because this China
absolutely.
thing is fascinating to me. I did look into what they're doing, and this I think there was actually not just a suit, but there was a judgment. And the judgment, this guy had been he was AI was able to do his job, and so they said, okay, we don't need you, but we'll keep you here if you'll take a 40% pay cut. And he said, I'm
That's
not
right.
taking a 40% pay cut. And then they let him
Yeah.
go. And then he
Right.
sued, and then he won. And the ruling was, as I understand it, tell me if I'm wrong, the Chinese judge said to the company, you have to hire him back. I don't care if AI can do his job better, stronger, faster. You are now, the judgment was hire him back. And
Yeah. You.
that was kind of like blew my mind. I mean, because we both have
It
concerns
was.
about people losing their jobs due to AI. And here China has kind of stepped up. Their judicial system has stepped up and said, no, 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 not so fast. You're not going to fire this guy because AI can do his job better. And that, wow,
It's.
that
It's.
blew my mind.
No, I hear you. It blew my mind too, mostly because, of course, you think communism, socialism, caring for the people isn't like a big part of what seems to happen in a lot of, especially dictatorial types of communist and socialist regimes, which China most certainly is. But what's interesting here is that also in the true nature, right, of communism, it's all about labor. And so perhaps those laws, or apparently those laws, are written such that, to protect laborers. And so what the judge essentially said was, you can't fire this person. You should have come up with a job uh, that he
Mm-hmm.
could do. It's okay for AI to do his job. It's not okay for you to fire him. You have to come
Yeah.
up with another job for him because you hired him, and therefore you are responsible for his livelihood. And this can kind of roll back on some of those discussions we've had previously. Where we talked about, how do you account for the fact that AI is going to result in so many layoffs, at least we think. And how do you account for that? And, we've talked about the way corporations are viewed in the United States. And so, one, I've espoused, and not because I necessarily like them, but just trying to come up with ideas on how to handle those situations. And this is not one that I had considered. So, we talked about tax them or create a sovereign wealth fund, la-di-da, other things that could help to solve this situation. But maybe this is the answer. Dennis, I'm not saying that this is an answer I like because
Well,
there
so you're
are
saying you're
huge
saying
ramifications. But
let me
you
so you're saying this could be the blueprint for how to handle people that are no longer needed because AI is doing it better and faster.
write it. We make it illegal to fire them.
Yeah. So
Let AI.
China leads the way on this somehow.
Well, not without really knowing it, um, but there. And again, I'm what I try to do is go, okay, how can this work, and is it completely negative? There are some negatives to this idea for sure, or does it have some positives? So let's run through this in the United States of America. AI is running through, and AI can suddenly do a bunch of jobs, and the corporation goes, "Oh, goody, I can save money," right? Which is good for share price, and which is good for total output, and all the things that we know capitalism does very well. Well, now we're going to tell the corporation, well, you can't fire them. You could certainly let AI do their job, though. So that's not a complete loss for the corporation. Okay, the investment in AI was already made; it's a sunk cost. The employees are already hired. That's already a cost. So you are not going to reduce the cost, but what you are going to do is have increased productivity because you can turn around and use those people in different areas to increase productivity, and you're hoping that the AI will actually do the job better. So it's a win for the companies, not as big a win as what they had hoped for, and not as big a win as what the shareholders had hoped for, but it is a win. Just a thought.
Yeah, no, it is an approach that I find intriguing, because uh, it keeps people employed. And
Okay.
I've been looking around, and we got, there's a lot of government jobs out there too, and AI is coming into the government field, and they're not really competing against anybody. Let's say if you're working at NASA, you're working at Department of let's say Defense Department. You're not really competing with anybody. But you may be becoming much more efficient, and you don't need all these people. But they might say, you know what? We don't need them, but it's better than letting them go. And the societal, the ball that starts rolling downhill that we can't stop is going to run us all,
Right.
is going to create mayhem. And so we're just going to kind of keep people. And
It's an
that's an
interesting thought.
intriguing little option. But, in our system, the American system, where competition is king, it won't be
Yeah,
long before some small company comes along that started maybe from nothing and has a bunch of AI agents and a handful of people, and they're running
exactly.
circles around this company that's
Exactly.
keeping people. Excuse me? I'm sorry, I missed what you said.
I said exactly.
Oh, okay.
You've hit on the problem. One of the you've hit on the problem
Yeah.
with this is the up and comers now get to use AI, and no one will ever hire someone for a position again. So the people who have jobs, they're in good shape. But who would hire an employee now knowing that it's a lifetime contract?
Yeah. This is I mean, we touch on this nearly every week about employment and jobs. And when you think you find something that might be a lifeline to people, it's like, well, you just can't fire them. Tell and
Go
and
go,
and,
go
and it
figure.
kind
It's a
of
hard
works,
problem.
and people get behind it, they support it. And then as time ticks along, you can't fool economics. You can't fool supply and demand. And
And
no
it
matter what good intentions you may have, you can't fool the economics of it. And I don't know, you're putting your thumb on the scale, so to speak. And as much as it may feel good, it's I don't want to say scary. That's the wrong word. It's disconcerting. Not too strong, but because I know, well, it kind of short term. It's kind of gonna help things along, but maybe in the long run, it's digging a hole.
yeah. We have talked about this on a number of occasions, and to use an economics term, what a lot of these decisions that we're talking about, like today's, where hey, what if we just don't let them lay people off? You're impacting the equilibrium, right? Equilibrium is going to impact price and output, right? So, and that's why we've sort of talked about let's try to keep our hands off capitalism and let it do its job to the end because it's going to create
Mm-hmm.
the maximum efficiency, the greatest total output and wealth, and then make corrections after the fact. Corrections that we hope can make up for the inequality that often results. So
What
you know,
That's I kind of like the way you said that, Don. But is it politically obtainable to kind of let it run? People are gonna get they're gonna I don't know if angry is the right word, but people are gonna want to say no, 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 or they're gonna want the judicial system involved, or they're gonna want the government involved, and they're gonna want to have look out for their own self interest.
yeah. Well, AI wants the government involved. We've heard that, and maybe it's because they understand that there are other possibilities like the one we've just talked about, which I think they would like a lot less.
Hmm.
So, um, but anyway, yeah, hard problems and huge problems. And you can see that there are strengths and weaknesses to each one. And again, the issue is going to be different in different cultures.
Yeah.
So a culture like the U.S. doesn't even like the word socialism, communism. They don't even like the word redistribution of wealth. I mean, they don't like those words. So it's like, okay, I shouldn't say they, we, the U.S., don't like those words. I'm talking about the population in general.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to be hard to implement one of those after the fact solutions that, whether it be taxes or like a sovereign wealth fund, it's going to be hard to implement one of those because of the view of the populace and the fact that it's capitalism, you know. And the reason I brought this up or China in the past so frequently is because easier to implement there. Not because I think China's better, just that in this particular case, the implementation would be, I think, received more positively, in my opinion. So,
Yeah, I think, as this debate goes forward, I think us humans are right now, we're in charge. We run the political system, we run the economy, we run decision making at companies, corporations, all across life. And so we can, I don't want to say AI is the boogeyman, but they're kind of turning into the boogeyman a little bit. And AI can't get on a
a little bit.
television and defend itself and say, no, I just did what I was programmed to do. um, there's no they can't defend themselves, and people, we're emotional, and we like a boogeyman, and AI can become the boogeyman, and we'll fight it. We're seeing it on data centers. We're seeing it here with this lawsuit. We're seeing it in people getting hired. We it's kind of natural for us to find the bad guy, and we can make AI the bad guy.
Right. Um, but it is a very powerful thing that can be dangerous because of its power. I'll just leave it at that. So regardless of your view of whether AI is good, bad, and different, it is powerful. I think we can all say that, and so therefore that is dangerous. Okay.
Anybody watching, please comment. Do you think AI is getting out of control with these firings? And is there any topics you think are there's? I tell you, I read the news websites, and AI is front page on darn near every day with some kind of article about what's going on with AI. So, if there's anything that struck you as being very pertinent to your life, let us know. We can dissect it for you.